Shalom, this is Hakam Yar ben-Emmett again with another interesting and exciting topic of interest quick video exclusively offered only through my own company, the Torah Watchman Show International LLC. Hope everyone's been well. I've been reading a lot from the prophets of old, the Navim, Isaiah, Hebrew text, and comparing this with the Greek codex per se, the Koine Greek that led to the invention of the New Testament Bible. Did you know there are 260 chapters altogether in the New Testament Bible? There's only 2 chapters in that entire canon that say anything about the virgin birth of Jesus. I already did a video about this. I don't want to go down rabbit hole and get more detail. You can watch the video for a complete exposition about all of this. But quickly, the Apostle Paul and 7 to 13 letters that he supposedly wrote to the various churches of his time, why didn't he say anything about the virgin birth of Jesus that was so significant and supernatural? To reference back to the prophet Isaiah, chapter 7, verse 14. You have to turn to the first chapters of Matthew and Luke, respectively, and you'll read in the King James Version Bible, and I'll quote this, and chapter 7, verse 14, if you're reading an Old Testament King James Version Bible, it says here, therefore the Lord himself shall give you a sign, behold, a virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and shall call his name Immanuel. Now notice the operative words and that are used here, referring to everything occurring for the future. So you have future tense versus present tense versus past tense. Now, I've told you before, a time of Isaiah, it was a very critical time for the evil king, King Ahaz, because King Pekah of northern Israel was signed security military agreements with Aram, which is known as Syria today, not Assyria. Why? Because they were threatened by as implied allegiance between the international powers of Assyria and King Ahaz that was over the southern kingdom of Israel, primarily the tribe of Yehuda and Yaman, of course, the tribe of Levi, and some of Manasseh were there too, after the big split between northern and the southern kingdom. So now you have historical context. Folks, this event that Isaiah was talking about is quoted in the King James Version Bible, and it's almost in every gospel tract you could find around Christmas time, and all the storytelling about Jesus in the manger, born of a virgin birth and everything else, all of this in the first chapters of Matthew and Luke came from this prophet Isaiah, but it was mistranslated, it was misphrased, and rewritten completely to make it Christological for something that occurred 700 years before Jesus was supposedly born. Okay? Now I'm going to read from you Hebrew and then a word for a word English translation. Now I have a very nice Navim. It's actually a trilingular book. So you can read in the Masoretic text. You can also read in translated Hebrew and can read in English as well. Okay? So I'm going to read the first verses I just quoted before, and just bear with me as I turn to this in my book. Now, in Isaiah chapter 7, verse 14, and sometimes from our Hebrew Tanakh, the verses change a little bit. They could be 7:14, 7:15. It's not germane, but for reference sake, if you have a King James Version Bible, you can turn to that. If you're Christian or ben-Emmett or Jew and indifferent and follow along, I'm going to read in English compared to what I just read in King James Version Bible. So what it says here in Isaiah 7, chapter 7, verse 14, behold, the young woman shall conceive and bear a son and shall call his name Immanuel. So at least you see that the woman who will bear this child, which is a male child, obviously, she would name him Immanuel, and it simply means God is with us. Incidentally, the word Immanuel is not found anywhere in the New Testament Bible. So in Hebrew, it says here, Hana Almah, which means young woman, someone who's married or has sexual intercourse or been intimate with another man, someone who's pregnant or has a child already. Ha'ama, the woman over there. Hara ve'oladat ben is son. Vakarat Shemo Yisrael. Shemo is the name of Ben, the son, which is be Immanuel. Now, it's interesting that the mother, when this child will be born, God told her, she was a prophetess, and she was actually the wife of Isaiah. So you try to build a picture, an image in your head quickly. You had the imminent military battle to the north of Judea, and King Ahaz was armed to the teeth, closed all the gates and everything around Jerusalem. Jerusalem was a walled city during that time. He had his military, had his archers and the turrets and guarding everything else, and he was waiting for an imminent attack, and he was vastly outnumbered. Well, King Ahaz was thinking about, his sword, his numbers and counts of his battle-ready military and everything else. He was not thinking about anything metaphysical or spiritual because he was not a spiritual Jew. He was a very bad Jew. In fact, he was known as one of the most evil kings of Judea. And it's said that I believe his firstborn son, whoever that was, he would sacrifice that to Baal worship and things of that nature. And he corrupted the holy temple of King Solomon. And prophet Isaiah was trying to keep a loose confederation of Levitical priests together and prophets together, but not going down that dark path where King Ahaz and the pagan polytheistic worship was going. Anyway, Isaiah said, "Don't worry, King Ahaz. You have nothing to worry about." And of course, Isaiah, he was from the nobility. He was the Davidic throne per se. He was a high-ranking kind of person. He had the ear of the King Ahaz, and he had access to the royal palace. And it was actually like a good luck charm, I believe. He was King Ahaz allowed him to tag on. That he's probably considered him very funny and humorous because he was talking about all these metaphysical things that he did not believe in. But he saw the witness of the people. They listened to Isaiah. Because when Isaiah spoke, God spoke literally through Isaiah. So Isaiah simply said, okay, King Ahaz, I know you're getting ready for imminent attack. I'm telling you, there's nothing to worry about. But you see that woman over there. She's right over there. The woman, the young woman there, she's pregnant with a little boy. And before he knows right from wrong, I'll read this section here. It says, curd and honey shall he eat when he knoweth to refuse evil and choose the good, and before he can say mommy and daddy, Abba and Emma, before he had a little toddler, that kind of thing. The military situation is extreme right now. They were on rations, they're limited food and water and things of this nature. And so King Ahaz thought Isaiah was crazy. He's saying, why are you so happy and joyful about your wife here, the woman over there, the young woman over there, the Almah? Why are you so excited about her? Because how in the world would your wife be okay giving birth in uncertain time? All of us could be dead in 24 hours. This was in King Ahaz's mindset there. But Isaiah rebutted him politely and respectfully and told him, you don't have to worry about that. Because God revealed to me there will be better times ahead, not only for your son, which is King Hezekiah, who is about 8 years old, the most righteous over kings that has ever will live and live again, was actually the son of this evil king, King Ahaz. The whole reason why God wanted to save King Ahaz, even if he didn't deserve to be saved, because King Hezekiah, he saw greatness within that son. So Isaiah said, don't worry about this. I'm not worried about my son I already have. I don't worry about my unborn son through my prophetess wife either, because he's going to be born in greater time than what we have here with blessings of God. I mean, when you're talking about butter and honey, it takes a lot of time to prepare those things. I mean, you have to milk the cow, you have to churn the butter and all of the dairy product and all of this, and to do it just right, make sure it doesn't spoil. It takes time to do that. You don't have time to churn butter, much less milk cows when you have imminent war, much less wait for the life cycle of the husbandry, or sort of to make honey and things like that. You need to have pollinating flowers and things of that nature. It's very complex to describe such things like that. Okay. A lot of times people that were wealthy could benefit from rich cream and honey and other delights like that. So Isaiah essentially says, I'm not worried. You should not worry. King Ahaz rebuffed him. He did not believe anything he had to say. So as far as the curd and honey, he simply says, Kamha udavash yokal ladato ma'asos bara uvakar batov. Okay. Batov is good. So uvakar batov, choose the good. In Hebrew, it says, Ki batarem yada hana'ah ma'os bara uvakar batov. Yes, before the child shall know to refuse the evil and choose good. And he continued on, he said, the land whose two kings thou shalt hast a horror shall be forsaken. But if you turn further in chapter 8, going to, I believe that's verse 18, correct me if I'm wrong. I want to read this here. It is very interesting. Now, this is Isaiah speaking. Of course, God is speaking to Isaiah. And Isaiah, when God spoke to him as a prophet, he was either to trance while he was awake, kind of a semi-subconscious state, or night vision, that kind of thing. And he wrote down this prophecy. Immediately, God turned on the switch within him to speak. To say, Isaiah, my servant, I'm speaking. Please write this down. Okay? Now, it says right here, V'akarav il hanadava vatahar vataled ben. He's talking about a son again. He said, this is the only place, I believe, other than one verse in Deuteronomy, that it talks about sexual relations between a man and a woman. Clearly, it usually says he laid with this woman, they conceived a child. But it's very clear here. He says, and I went to the prophetess, and I went into a private place with her, and she conceived of it. Obviously, they had sex, and she conceived and bore a son. This is the son that Isaiah was promising that to King Ahaz, that everything would be okay to be born. He continues on. He says, "Vayomer Yehovah Elahai Karashamo Maher Shalom Chashbaz." That's a big long word. Then said the Lord unto me, call his name Maher Shalom Hashbaz. Folks, this name here, Maher Shalom Hashbaz, is none other than Immanuel. Immanuel is simply a sign or something like that of better days ahead, that this child will be an indicator, the birth of this child and the life that he would live, and a sign that of uncertain times, but imminently soon, everything will be okay again, that this little boy will be raised into a good life and have the best things in life. And that means God is with us, Immanuel. The mother referred to her son as Immanuel in chapter 7, verse 14. But it says clearly in Isaiah chapter 8, around verse 18, in that area, you can turn to that. It says very clearly, he identifies the same woman, Almah, is the prophetess, the wife of Isaiah, who was pregnant at that time, not 700 years in the future, of a birth of Jesus to Mother Mary. You know, he's talking about her in his current time for a reason. And I thought you would enjoy this, even in my broken Hebrew. The more I learn in Hebrew, the more I understand the context, and the more I realize the immensity of the propaganda war machine that the writers, the New Testament Bible, how they intentionally knew what I just read you, but they changed the entire paradigm. They changed the entire message there, lied, and changed verses around, especially King James Version Bible that was published in 1609, I believe. Not one single Jew was period referenced in that. It was all bishops, all Christians that wrote this, and essentially removed anything Jewish out of the entire Old Testament there. This is what I'm talking about. Again, why are there only 2 chapters in the entire New Testament Bible? And there's about 260 chapters in all. Why? If it's so significant, why only 2 chapters and Matthew and Luke talk about the virgin birth of Jesus? Why? And there's only very veiled implications or references there. It does not say, Matthew does not say, as referenced in the prophets, he does not say Isaiah, but in every commentary in the King James Version Bible, New International Version Bible, and others out there that Christians read all the time, and they learn about Bible studies and things like that, it has commentary going back to 714. Anyway, I love you Christians out there. If you're listening to me, Ben Noach, I love you all. To give you the truth, I don't get rich out of lying to you, but other people have lied to you, folks. Investigate this, apologetics, investigate this yourself and prove to yourself. Fact check what I'm saying. Get a trilingual or bilingual Hebrew version of your Old Testament Bible and read the words yourself. How Almah is as young woman. It's not but Batula, which just means virgin. Okay, it's very clear. But more importantly, if you read the next chapter over in chapter 8, verse 18, and those verses there, you see that Isaiah is talking about the same thing here, but the same encounter he had between King Ahaz in the imminent battle before that faced between the kings of the north and Aram to destroy Jerusalem. The same person. Okay? I think it's remarkable. And nothing is in the Torah, nothing is in the Nevi'im or sacred writings if it's not generation important for today. The reason why God told Isaiah, well, I believe, the reason why he told Isaiah to write this additional message, talking about the intimate encounter with the prophetess, his wife, to have this new child, Immanuel, is because they predicted that some other religion far in the future, 7 years in the future, would capitalize this, refactor it, reinvent it, corrupt it to create the virgin birth narrative. Every Christian knows 714, especially around Christmas and Roman Catholic Mass and thing. They celebrate the Nativity Saint, and fortunately it's in Jerusalem too. They have churches, Palestinians, that celebrate the birth, the virgin birth of Jesus and everything else too. They celebrate all of that. It's based on 2 chapters that are out of 260 total chapters in the New Testament, and based on a gross molestation and alteration of the Holy Scripture just read you from the Nevi'im, the Messiah, chapter 7, verse 14. But no Christian will read further outside of that, like in chapter 8, for additional detail and exposition. Even Isaiah is confusing to a lot of people. It's not historically consistent from chapter to chapter. It jumps back and forth between time and space and all that. It's just the way just the way God was speaking to him. And it's confusing. And that's why a lot of Christians don't read and deep dive in Isaiah like they would do in other books of the Bible. Okay? Exodus is a lot easier to understand, or First Kings or Second Kings are much easier to understand than the book of Isaiah, because it's very up there. It's very elevated, very spiritual, very metaphysical. But I encourage you to fact check yourself. I'm not denigrating Christians or any other religion. I'm just telling you what the Bible says, what the Jewish Bible says, that you believe without a doubt is the literal word of God as it's written. I'm telling you how it was written in Hebrew, but it's not written the same way in the King James Version Bible. Shalom Aleichem. Hakam Yarben, signing out until the next time. God bless you.
If you've enjoyed this program, please click like and subscribe.